the wonderful things you've done. Praise the Lord, all people on earth. Praise his glory and might. God is wise and powerful. Let's lift him up. Jesus, I love you.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus, I love you. I love you.
Hey everybody, what's going on?
I love you.
How y'all doing?
Praise you.
This is history, y'all.
Oh, Jesus,
I'm
I
so
praise
excited to be here. This is history in the making, guys. This is our first show on the Faith Expression Gospel Radio program. And this is really, really amazing. And I want to take time out to say thank you to Phoenix and the incredible staff at Faith Expressions. How this works, guys, is we do the show here, Facebook Live, and they snatch the audio and edit it and broadcast on syndicated network. I think that's pretty amazing. That means that we can do this show actually from anywhere in the world. So that's pretty amazing. Technology is crazy. So all of you guys that are doing some amazing things, I'm going to be looking to bring you guys on the show. Carla, Omega, my friends that are really about that life that we call Christendom and moving in excellence outside of the church and even in the marketplace. You're the guys that we want to talk to, because I believe that when God brings you opportunities and platforms, it's really amazing when you create that platform and share that with someone else. So I'm excited. My first guest today is an incredible young lady. But before I do that, let me just give you guys some announcements, some stuff that we got coming up. This show will be airing on the radio every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 7 p.m. MNT time, and 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So you can also tune in on the internet at www.faithexpressions. That's Faith Expressions with an X.net. And you can tune in and join us there. Also, we want to, of course, announce that our new single is out, Because You're Great. And God has been so faithful to us, guys. We have came in on the BDS charts at number 246. And as of this week, matter of fact, we are now 140. Out of the top 500 gospel songs in the country, we are number 140. And as soon as we break that 100, we'll be on the Billboard charts. And we're looking to do that real soon. But I want to bring this young lady here. Let me bring her in. Yes, Joy is an amazing thinker. I had the privilege of sitting on a platform with her a few months ago, and I just fell in love with her mind and her approach to things. So the name of our show is Face the Truth. But today we're going to be talking about changing. How do we move forward in the culture, and the church? So let's get right to it, Joy. The first question I have for you is how do we move forward in the church and the culture? How do we do that?
So I think the first step is to acknowledge that we need to move forward. I think
Right.
that there are a lot of spaces where we have kind of dug down into what it is that we're doing, and we've kind of made everything that we're not doing the devil, or not God, or that's just not, we're not called to that. That's not our, like, we get a little defensive.
Okay.
So I think that one of the things that we need to be thinking about is thinking about what progressiveness looks like in the faith-based organization while maintaining standards, right, in relation to holiness or biblical standards, morals, integrity, etc. What does it look like to be progressive? I think if we do that first and let go of the defensiveness, we can really have a dialogue about what it is that we could be doing differently or better. But you first got to be willing to say, we may need to do something different, and accept that change is not bad. Like everything is not, don't over super spiritualize it, keep it in context, but be thoughtful about, be open to, we need to do something better.
Absolutely. So the thing that I'm noticing is that even me as a senior pastor, how do we prevent the offense
from entering into the change that everybody knows needs to happen. But for some reason, when you're talking about change and moving the culture of the church forward, everybody's so sensitive. Everybody's, I start to see a divide: the millennials against the Generation Xers, and it's like we feel, or subconsciously it has been put in the atmosphere that we have to be pit against one another in order for this to happen. How can we avoid that? Because I don't think we need to work against each other. I actually think we would get more done working together. But how do you think we can go about doing that?
So one, first want to preface that those generational clashes are kind of inherent to any movement. Any movement or transfer, or when people are doing something different, there's always the way we did it versus the way we want to do
So
it.
it's not the devil.
Right? It's not the devil. So I think that happens in workspaces. It
Yeah.
happens in organizations.
Yeah.
It happens in civic movements. Right? We have the old style of movement versus today. So you even have within like the social awareness platforms, right? And things around like civil rights and things like that. You have, I ain't Rosa, right? You got the people that'll say, I'm not Rosa Parks, you're not Thurman. There's always this conversation. I think that what normally happens and what we all need to be mindful of is you can't judge or minimize the previous movement or work. And I think if we look at it on younger generations giving respect to the foundations that were built by the older generations, and older generations remembering that at some point they were the younger generation that was doing something that the older generation didn't fully understand. I think we can move forward. But what tends to happen is millennials, depending on what book you read, I am a millennial. So the millennial generation tends to, I'll use, for example, that conversation about like, I'm not Rosa.
Okay.
Well, we have the right to say that because of a Rosa.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
I don't know what it is to be forced to sit on the back of a bus. I don't know what it is. While I see the things happening around police brutality and things like that, we think about the concept that like people were drugged out of their homes, hung, like some of the rights that we sit in and own, we own because people who died to have that right. So I think that what our generation could do better is acknowledge that there was a price paid for the privilege that we sit in today. And I think that the older generation can then say, we're glad that they're able to sit in that privilege, right? That's fruit of our work. That's fruit that what we did actually came to pass. And so how do we help them to continue to move forward? But I think that the only way to get rid of the rift is for us to get rid of the rift, right? Like we have to intentionally say, what do we need from the other party? What do I need from the older generation? Your older generation, what do you need from us? And validate each other and move forward.
That's so great because Hebrews 1:43, it says that he called the old because they know the way.
Okay. If when we did that program, there was such an amazing dialogue that went on about us bridging the gap. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about was how do we address the change again that certainly needs to happen with the styles of worship per se. That's one of the biggest things that we see going on, because some people worship in the dark, some people worship in the light. There's people that still wear collars, and pastors like me with ripped up jeans and Jordans on. How do we make that where it's okay? Because I think diversity is what makes the kingdom attractive. It's not something that should make us at odds with one another. What do you think about that?
So I'm taking y'all on tour with me because I'm trying to look for something. But so what I'll say is this idea of this unilateral worship that everybody does the exact same way is not even biblical.
Right.
So I'm not really sure where we got it from. I'm not sure why we think it makes sense. And I don't even know why it's a goal. I think that sometimes we're fighting for unattainable goals, and goals that just really don't make sense. So fundamentally, this idea of this unison where everybody worships and praises and dances and shouts and engages the same way is not real. And I don't think it's something that we should even ascribe to, right? When we look biblically, and I think a lot of this goes back to just get biblical enough to realize that some of the stuff that we're expecting to happen is not realistic, right? But biblically, when you look through the biblical lens, when you start talking about even the conversations with Paul, when you start thinking about the disciples, okay, do we eat swine or do we not? Do we manage this ritual or do we not? And a lot of it was that the standards of holiness didn't change,
Right.
right? But worship practices were relegated to how people worship. What did their culture say, right? What were some of the things that their culture held? So, when that rift between Peter and Paul was really like Paul coming for Peter and saying, you're being a little hypocritical,
Right.
because when you're with the Gentiles you're this way, but then when we come back amongst the Jews and the Gentiles are there, you're being a little shady, right?
Right.
The idea of it is that we cannot ever have a conversation about being fearfully and wonderfully made, and about us being uniquely done, or even about us being jointly fit together as a body of believers, if we expect all of us to do the same and be the same and engage the same. So if my foot and my hand and my lung all decide to be my heart, I can't walk, I can't touch, I can't breathe. I just got a lot of blood pumping everywhere.
Wow.
And I think that part of it is where I think we get mixed up, because we keep expecting an ideal that I don't even think God ever intended.
Wow.
I don't think God intended for us to be the same, to do the same, to look the same, walk the same, engage the same. And again, I referenced back and I mentioned it, even when I looked at, and I was doing some work around when faith meets strategy and just doing study and making sure I had information. And one of the things that stuck out to me is when Jesus starts calling the disciples, there's a scripture that sticks out where he finds Peter and his brother, and he says, come with me and I'll make you fishers of men, right? And why this was important to me is that Jesus wasn't a fisherman, he was a carpenter. Jesus didn't say to them, come with me and I'll make you carpenters. I'll teach you how to be carpenters, I'll teach you my trade. What he said is, come with me and I'll teach you how to take what you currently do, right, and apply it to discipleship, right, and bringing people in. So I think that if we even just use, when we keep saying what would Jesus do, I'm going to say, what did Jesus do? Look at his model, right, and say, what did he do? When he went out and found disciples, he didn't convert them or turn them into who he was. He told them how to take who they were and apply it to the mission. And we keep trying to clone folks as opposed to saying, how does what you do fit to the mission? So roll it back into the church. Most churches have to deal with money, right? Most churches have a money issue. So money says to me that you need an accountant. Most churches don't have a strong accountant. Why? Because when the accountant came to your church, you tried to make him a pastor. You tried to make him a minister. You tried to put him on a praise team. You tried to make him a missionary or an evangelist. Maybe he was called to the kingdom just to be an accountant. So now your money is crazy, and now you got to go to the world and hire what you already had because you didn't foster it. Right? And we want to know why we operate in a deficit. I'm sorry, I get on my I get on my runs because I'm passionate about this stuff.
Because I was talking to my church Wednesday night, and I said that your success is going to be found in your specialty. You have to figure out what it is that God called you to do, and it doesn't have to be what he called me to do. How boring would the church be if everybody preached like Pastor Jason, if everybody sang like me, if everybody did graphics like Omega, if everybody thought like you? I think we have to start not being afraid to push people to become experts in their specialty. Because here's the thing, I used to make a silly statement when I was young that I was the jack of all trades, the master of none. And that was so silly of me because there was such an anointing on me to do something specific, but I was busy trying to do everything that I saw everybody do because that's what I thought I had to do to be cool and to be popular, instead of just being okay with being Jason the drummer, Jason the musician. And once I tapped into what my specialty was, that's when I started to experience success at a different level. So I think what you're saying is so powerful, and that's crazy because normally we don't even realize everything we need is already in the house.
Already in the house. Literally, the stuff that I'm saying now, and this is no shade at any of my past ministries or past pastors, because I think they were all necessary to my progress. But I'm the same person in 2019 that I literally was in 2009. And there were projects or things that I was really, really, really passionate to work on. And it was like, nope, we see you doing this. Nope, here's the microphone to pray. Nope, do that. And while I think that those giftings and abilities are part of who I am, like I need to have a prayer life and I need to know how to worship, I think that what I got lost in two things is that in order to feel like I was valuable in church, I felt like I had to assimilate to those behaviors, right? And be good in those pockets only. And then I felt like I was always the negative Nancy in every meeting because I was saying, how we going to do it? When we going to do it? Who we doing it for? You know, how much is it going to cost?
Right.
Does it make sense? What does it say? Is it in alignment with our brand? Is it in alignment with our mission? And people were like, you don't have no faith. That's even part of like when faith meets strategy. If that intentional naming is just like, I have faith. But again, back to biblical models. Noah built an ark.
Right.
He had faith and he had ministry operating at the same time,
Right.
but he also had a strategy, right? So he was building, he was preaching, and he was believing that he wasn't out here looking crazy, right? Because they were told a flood was coming in a place where there was no rain. They had never seen rain before.
Right.
So now you don't promise, you're going to tell me a flood is coming. You're going to tell me to build a boat. You're going to tell me to build a boat while I tell people about a flood that's coming, right?
Right.
So I'm building, I'm ministering, and I'm doing something that there is no pattern for other than the one that you gave me, right? So God then gave him a very specific pattern, and this is the wood, and you pitch it like this, and I want 2 of these animals and 4 of those animals, and don't bring in this and bring in that. So there was still a strategy working. There was ministry happening, right? And his faith is what connected him to both. His faith was necessary for him to both keep building that boat and to keep preaching that sermon that wasn't popular.
Wow.
He was preaching an unpopular sermon, building something that no one had ever seen before. And the faith was the thing that kept him connected to it. So I think what we've done is taught faith as believe God hard enough so that you don't have to do the work.
Woo.
If you believe God, he gonna drop it out the sky.
Right.
Believe
Right.
God.
Right.
I don't know what's happening. I can hear myself echoing. Believe God, and he gonna drop it out the sky. Believe God, he's gonna do it for you. Believe God. Can you hear me echoing?
There's no echo on my end.
Okay, because I can hear me on a delay.
Okay.
So it was the conversation about when we say, your credit is bad, but believe God, he can fix it. He can, but your faith helps you pay your bills on time.
Right.
And believe that if I stay consistent,
Right.
my credit's gonna come up and I can go get that house.
Exactly.
And what we've done is we just kind of keep using faith to be lazy. And so because we've taught people that when we tell people to do the work, they say well, you're trying to replace works with faith. No, I'm not. And I'm not trying to replace faith with works. The Bible says that they go together because without faith, the work is dead,
That's
right?
it.
And without
That's it.
works, right, what are you working towards? So I think if we taught people to understand that faith is the thing that keeps us connected to the mission, right? I believe in this so much. I believe in the promises of God. I believe in the end that God has promised me to the degree that I'm going to stay on this path and I'm going to do this work. I'm going to build this boat and I'm going to preach this unpopular message. And I know that in the end, he's not going to have me out here looking crazy.
Joy,
That he's going to do what he said.
I got a serious question for you. What made you start thinking like this? And actually speaking on it, because I wish I had, first of all, I want to make this clear. Every church needs a Joy Pittman. I said it from the first time I met you, and I'm trying to twist my trustee's arm right now because we gotta bring you in for this year of partnering, because I know that there's an anointing on you to help shift the culture of this generation of believers. And sometimes, even as a pastor, sometimes we think that, everything has to happen through us. And, even like subconsciously, we train our churches like that and don't even know, because we tell people stuff like, okay, now we're coming to the most important part of the service, and it just happens to be you preaching every week.
Right.
So subconsciously, we're teaching people that the most important move of the service can't happen without me. And
people gonna have to deal with the echo for 20 minutes because I'm on 10% and I'm either gonna get dropped off or y'all gonna have to do the echo. So take the echo from me, guys. Stay committed. We got you.
We got committed. So what made you start thinking like that?
So one, I'm gonna say I don't know, which is why I believe it's my gifting. I think it's almost like saying what made you love music, or what made Omega good with graphics, or it's hard to kind of quantify who made who do what, right? So I think that part is hard. I believe that this is kind of just my gift and ability, and it's what God gave me to do. I think what started bringing it to light for me was the disconnect between my success in my professional career and how I was managing in the church.
Right.
So in my 9 to 5, everybody wanted me on their team. At my church, I was like a necessary evil, or even like, no, we don't want to hear that. Like I was saying the thing that nobody wanted to hear. But my 9 to 5 organizations were winning and my churches weren't. Right? And so you started finding that disconnect. I think I will say, to the same token, having the validation and the success in my professional life gave me the freedom to say what I needed to say in church, because I was no longer coming to church for people to value me and validate me. I was already getting that Monday through Friday, right? My work projects, my salary, all that stuff was my validation. So when I came to church, I was really making up my mind to say, I believe that there's a greater impact that I can bring. Someone's gonna let me bring it. And if they don't let me bring it here, I'll bring it somewhere else. And if they don't let me bring it anywhere, then I also realize that the church is not the only platform for a conversation. So then I'll just do events. Or I'll do it somewhere else, or I'll do it on Facebook, or I'll engage it. But I decided at some point that it wasn't something that I was willing to allow to be quieted because people couldn't manage it. It took a lot of understanding that there was no one platform that was designed so that that people not accepting me on one platform didn't make me irrelevant in the world. And what happened is that what I also then had to do was say what I needed to say, hone my craft, and then wait. Because what I also realized is that, and I worked in healthcare for a while.
Okay.
You have a patient, and sometimes the patients are the most resistant, mean, and when I'm working with like nurses and different people when I was doing it, you would end up coaching them. You have a patient, they're the most resistant, the most mean, the most whatever patient you have. But somewhere between a person being really sick and being at the end, they lose that level of resistance. Because your own self-preservation at some point says, I may hate this person, but they got the thing that I need. You can even take a person that's racist. If the only person that can save their life is that little black lady over there with that thing, they may hate that that's the person that has to do it. But most people are not going to say, I'd rather die than let that person help me, right? So people start shedding their biases when they start acknowledging the need. And what started happening for me was people started realizing that they weren't winning. Their membership was dwindling. Their money was looking crazy. Like certain things looked like it wasn't sustainable. And now we're willing to hear what we weren't really willing to hear before as far as solutions. Because me telling you, it's like with anything. It's like, wait, your doctor telling you you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight, you need to lose weight. Don't hit home till they tell you now you diabetic. And now all of a sudden you can eat better, right? Because there's something about self-preservation that will allow us to hear things that we weren't willing to hear when we were good. I'm going to say in a really quick way, and I'm encouraging anybody that's listening, and I just want to take the moment since I said that. Sometimes your gift is ahead of where everybody is. And what that doesn't mean, and I use the Noah model again, Noah built a boat for a long time before a boat was necessary. Build your craft, build your knowledge base, build your information, because we don't need you to start building a boat when the rain comes. We don't need to start building a boat when we're drowning. We need the boat to be available at the moment that tragedy hits. And some of us, what we're called to do, will get its greatest response when people are in spaces where they're in enough trauma or they're in enough duress to need you. And that's not the moment where you say, okay, let me go figure out how to do this thing that I know I was called to do. Right. That thing should have already been sharpened. David and Goliath, right? He made that slingshot and that rock good in the field, good with the sheep, right? Before Goliath even presented itself, because we didn't need David to be figuring out the slingshot while Goliath was about to tear us up.
Right.
So some of us are waiting for validation and permission to even hone our craft. And what I'm going to say is, again, that faith component says that you hone your craft. You work it and you sharpen it, because when it's ready to go to battle, we need to know you can fight. That's really what that is. I don't need you figuring it out. So I just want to encourage somebody, just a quick segue. You may be working on whatever it is that you bring to the world, and it feels like there's no market for it. No one's listening. No one's ready for it. Keep working it. Keep perfecting it. Keep clarifying it. Or you may know that there's a market, but your market's not ready to hear you, and other markets are. Use those other markets to perfect it, to clarify it, to clean it up, because when the people that you're called to are ready to need you, you got to be ready to respond.
Powerful.
You've been listening to Face the Truth with Jason Hendrickson, heard each Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain, and 6 p.m. Pacific on Faith Expression Gospel Radio. Be sure to tune in next Friday for part 2 of the interview with Joy Pittman right here on Face the Truth on Faith Expressions Gospel Radio.
From the bottom of my heart, I praise you. Yes, I do, because you're great. If you're not ashamed to lift him up, I need you to help me sing it now. You got it. Come on. Oh, Jesus, I love you. That's your great. Oh, Jesus, I love you. That's your great. Help me sing now. I love you. Jesus, I love you. That's your great. Hey, Jesus, I praise you. That's your great. Oh, Jesus, I praise you. That's your great. I praise you with everything I got. Hey, Jesus, I praise you. That's your great. Everybody clap your hands. Yeah. I need you to put your hands on this right here, y'all. I feel the glory. Feel like I'm at 869 Halsey Street. Let's go. Oh, Jesus, I love you. That's your great. Oh, Jesus, I love you. That's your great. Hey, I love you. I love you. I love you. Oh, Jesus, I love you. That's your great. Hey, I praise you. All of my soul. All of my soul. I praise you. All of my heart. I praise you. All of my soul. All of my soul. I praise you. Everything I have, Jesus. I praise you. All of my soul. I praise you. Hey. All of my heart. I praise you. Yeah. All of my soul. I praise you. All of my heart. With all of my soul, yeah. Everything I have within me, Jesus. I won't be ashamed.